close your eyes for a moment and imagine complete silence. No phone notifications, no music, no television in the background, no endless stream of videos, podcasts, messages, or conversations. Just silence. For many people in 2026, that thought feels surprisingly uncomfortable. In fact, studies over the past decade have repeatedly shown that many individuals would rather expose themselves to unpleasant stimulation than sit alone with their thoughts for even a short period. What once would have seemed absurd now feels strangely believable. We live in a world where every spare second can be filled instantly. Waiting rooms are no longer quiet. Elevators are no longer silent. Even walks through the neighborhood are accompanied by earbuds, delivering a constant stream of information and entertainment. Human beings have become surrounded by noise, not just audible noise, but cognitive noise. Our ancestors experienced long periods of stillness. They sat around fires. They watched rivers flow. They spent time staring into open landscapes. Moments of silence were not unusual. They were woven into daily existence. The brain evolved in environments where periods of external calm allowed internal processing. Today, however, stillness has become rare. The average person encounters thousands of digital interruptions every week. Notifications arrive from social media platforms, messaging apps, news feeds, work systems, and entertainment services. Every interruption captures attention and trains the brain to expect stimulation. Over time, something subtle begins to happen. The absence of stimulation starts feeling wrong. Silence no longer feels peaceful. Instead, it feels empty. The mind begins searching desperately for something to fill the gap. People instinctively reach for their phones during moments that once required patience. Standing in line for coffee becomes an opportunity to scroll. A short pause between tasks becomes a chance to check messages. The modern brain becomes conditioned to movement. When stimulation disappears, anxiety often appears. This reaction is not a sign of weakness or personal failure. It is the predictable result of living in an environment designed to capture and hold attention continuously. Every app, platform, and algorithm competes for one limited resource: human focus. As a result, many people have forgotten what genuine stillness feels like. Yet silence remains one of the most powerful psychological states available to us. Beneath the discomfort lies something deeper, a doorway into self-awareness, emotional processing, and mental clarity. The paradox of modern life is that while we are more connected than ever before, we are increasingly afraid of being alone with our own minds. And understanding why may reveal one of the most important psychological challenges of our time. To understand why silence feels uncomfortable today, we need to understand the brain we inherited. The human brain did not evolve for smartphones, social media feeds, or 24-hour information cycles. It evolved over hundreds of thousands of years in environments radically different from modern society. For most of human history, survival depended on vigilance. A sudden rustle in nearby bushes might signal danger. An unexpected sound could indicate a predator. The brain developed sophisticated systems designed to detect threats quickly and efficiently. This survival mechanism remains active today. The problem is that the modern environment constantly activates it. News alerts arrive every hour. Social media exposes us to crises occurring across the globe. Work emails appear at all times of day. The brain interprets these endless signals as important information requiring attention. As a result, our nervous systems remain in a state of low-level alertness. Silence interrupts that flow. When external stimulation disappears, the brain doesn't automatically relax. Instead, it often becomes more aware of internal thoughts and emotions that had previously been hidden beneath distractions. This can feel unsettling. Imagine stirring a pond continuously. The water remains cloudy because sediment never settles. The modern mind operates similarly. Constant stimulation keeps thoughts, worries, and emotions moving so rapidly that they are difficult to see clearly. Silence allows the sediment to settle. Suddenly, unresolved concerns become visible. Questions about relationships emerge. Financial worries surface. Personal insecurities appear. Regrets, fears, and uncertainties that had been masked by endless activity rise into conscious awareness. Many people mistake this process for anxiety caused by silence. In reality, silence is simply revealing what was already present. The brain's threat detection system often interprets these uncomfortable emotions as problems requiring immediate action. Consequently, individuals reach for distractions. They open an app, start a video, check notifications, or seek conversation. The discomfort disappears temporarily, but the underlying thoughts remain unresolved. This creates a cycle. The more frequently people escape silence, the less comfortable they become with it. The less comfortable they become with it, the more urgently they seek stimulation. Over time, the brain learns that stillness equals discomfort and distraction equals relief. This association becomes deeply ingrained. Yet understanding this process provides hope. The discomfort many people experience in silence is not evidence that something is wrong. It is evidence that the mind is finally being given space to speak. What feels like restlessness may actually be awareness. What feels like emptiness may actually be the beginning of genuine self-reflection. And what feels like silence may contain more psychological information than all the noise we consume each day. One of the most important reasons modern brains struggle with silence involves a powerful chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is often described as the brain's pleasure molecule, but that description is incomplete. More accurately, dopamine is associated with anticipation, motivation, and reward-seeking behavior. It drives us toward experiences that might provide satisfaction. In nature, this system helped humans survive. Finding food, discovering resources, and building social connections all triggered dopamine responses that encouraged beneficial behaviors. Technology has learned how to activate the same system. Every notification, message, like, comment, and update creates a small possibility of reward. The brain anticipates something interesting, useful, or socially validating. That anticipation produces dopamine activity. Importantly, uncertainty strengthens the effect. A slot machine is addictive because rewards arrive unpredictably. Social media operates in a remarkably similar way. Users never know when they will receive attention, exciting news, or entertaining content. As a result, they continue checking again and again throughout the day. Eventually, the brain becomes accustomed to frequent dopamine stimulation. Moments without stimulation feel less satisfying by comparison. Silence contains no notifications, no surprises, no immediate rewards. From the perspective of a dopamine-conditioned brain, silence feels boring, but boredom itself is psychologically fascinating. Historically, boredom often served a valuable purpose. It encouraged creativity, exploration, and problem-solving. When external stimulation was absent, the mind generated its own entertainment and ideas. Many of humanity's greatest insights emerged during periods of apparent inactivity. Today, however, boredom rarely lasts long enough to perform its function. The instant boredom appears, people can eliminate it with a swipe of a finger. Consequently, the brain loses opportunities to practice generating internal stimulation. Creativity weakens. Patience diminishes. Reflection becomes unfamiliar. The ability to sit quietly begins to erode. This does not mean technology is inherently harmful. Digital tools provide enormous benefits. They connect people, increase access to knowledge, and create opportunities unimaginable to previous generations. The challenge lies in balance. When the brain becomes dependent on constant external rewards, silence starts feeling like deprivation. Yet silence is not deprivation. It is recovery. It allows dopamine systems to recalibrate. It creates space between impulses and actions. It helps individuals rediscover sources of satisfaction that originate internally rather than externally. The irony is striking. Many people chase stimulation hoping to feel better, but sometimes the very thing the brain needs most is the absence of stimulation altogether. Perhaps the most common reason people avoid stillness is that silence often magnifies anxiety. Imagine driving a car with loud music playing. A strange noise from the engine may go unnoticed. Turn the music off, and suddenly the sound becomes obvious. Silence works similarly within the mind. When distractions fade, emotional signals become easier to hear. Worries that were hidden beneath activity move into awareness. Concerns about the future become more noticeable. Lingering emotional pain becomes harder to ignore. This process can feel overwhelming. Many individuals conclude that silence causes anxiety. Psychologically, however, silence rarely creates anxiety from nothing. Instead, it increases awareness of anxiety that already exists. The distinction matters. Avoiding silence may reduce discomfort temporarily, but it also prevents emotional processing. Unacknowledged fears remain active beneath the surface. They continue influencing behavior even when they are not consciously recognized. The modern world offers countless opportunities to avoid this awareness. Entertainment streams continuously. Work expands into personal time. Social media provides endless distractions. The result is a society that can remain busy almost indefinitely. Yet emotional experiences do not disappear simply because attention shifts elsewhere. They wait, and silence often becomes the moment when they finally reappear. Psychologists sometimes describe this phenomenon as emotional backlog. Just as emails accumulate when ignored, emotions accumulate when consistently avoided. Eventually, the backlog demands attention. Stillness creates the conditions for that attention. This explains why meditation, reflection, and solitude sometimes feel uncomfortable before they feel beneficial. People often encounter unresolved thoughts before experiencing peace. The process resembles cleaning a cluttered room. Initially, the mess becomes more visible. Only afterward does order emerge. Understanding this pattern can transform how people interpret discomfort during silence. Instead of viewing anxiety as evidence that stillness is harmful, it can be viewed as information. The mind may be highlighting areas requiring care, healing, or action. Fear of silence often reflects fear of self-confrontation. Yet self-confrontation is also the foundation of personal growth. The emotions we avoid frequently become the emotions that control us. The thoughts we refuse to examine often shape our decisions unconsciously. Silence interrupts that pattern. It creates an opportunity to observe rather than escape, and although that process can be challenging, it is also profoundly liberating. Because once we stop running from our inner world, we gain the ability to understand it. And understanding is where transformation begins. For generations, boredom was a normal part of life. Children stared out windows during long journeys. Adults waited patiently without digital entertainment. Quiet afternoons often unfolded without constant stimulation. Today, boredom has become almost extinct. The moment boredom appears, a device is available to eliminate it. Yet boredom serves an important psychological purpose. Rather than being an enemy, boredom functions as a bridge between external stimulation and internal creativity. When the brain lacks immediate entertainment, it begins searching inward. Imagination activates. Memories connect in unexpected ways. New ideas emerge. Researchers have repeatedly observed connections between boredom and creative thinking. This makes intuitive sense. If the environment provides nothing interesting, the mind creates something interesting. But this process requires time. Creativity rarely appears instantly. It often emerges after periods of wandering attention and mental exploration. Constant stimulation interrupts that process. The brain becomes accustomed to receiving finished content instead of generating original thoughts. Videos provide stories. Algorithms provide recommendations. Feeds provide endless novelty. As consumption increases, creation may decrease. Silence and boredom reverse this pattern. They encourage the mind to become an active participant rather than a passive receiver. Some of history's most influential thinkers embraced boredom intentionally. Long walks, solitary reflection, and quiet observation provided opportunities for ideas to develop naturally. These practices remain valuable today. In fact, they may be more valuable than ever. Modern individuals are surrounded by unprecedented amounts of information. What many people lack is not knowledge, but processing time. Boredom provides that processing time. It allows experiences to integrate. It allows insights to mature. It allows the mind to connect ideas that would otherwise remain isolated. The initial discomfort of boredom often masks deeper psychological benefits. Beyond creativity, boredom strengthens patience. It increases tolerance for uncertainty. It teaches the brain that discomfort does not require immediate elimination. These abilities contribute significantly to emotional resilience. A person who can sit calmly with boredom often finds it easier to sit calmly with other difficult emotions as well. In this sense, boredom becomes a form of mental training. It strengthens capacities that constant stimulation gradually weakens. The challenge for modern society is not simply finding more entertainment. Entertainment is abundant. The challenge is reclaiming spaces where boredom can perform its hidden work. Because beneath boredom lies curiosity. Beneath curiosity lies creativity. And beneath creativity lies a deeper relationship with the self that many people unknowingly crave. When most people think about productivity, they imagine concentration. They picture a person intensely focused on a task, solving problems, writing reports, or studying information. For decades, scientists focused heavily on what happens in the brain during these moments of active attention. Then, researchers discovered something surprising. The brain remains remarkably active even when we appear to be doing nothing. This activity is associated with a collection of interconnected brain regions known as the default mode network, often abbreviated as the DMN. The default mode network becomes especially active during quiet moments, when we are resting, daydreaming, reflecting, or sitting in silence. At first glance, this might seem unimportant. After all, society often treats idle moments as wasted moments. But neuroscience suggests the opposite. The default mode network performs some of the brain's most important psychological work. It helps us process experiences. It helps us understand ourselves. It helps us imagine the future. It helps us construct personal identity. Whenever you replay a conversation in your mind, reflect on a life decision, imagine future possibilities, or think about who you are as a person, the default mode network is heavily involved. In essence, silence activates the systems responsible for self-understanding. This is one reason stillness can feel uncomfortable. The brain begins presenting material that constant stimulation normally suppresses. Questions emerge. Why am I unhappy at work? Am I spending my time wisely? What do I actually want from life? How healthy are my relationships? These reflections are not signs of dysfunction. They are signs that the brain is performing one of its core functions. The modern environment, however, frequently interrupts this process. Every spare moment can be filled with external input. Waiting in traffic becomes podcast time. Standing in line becomes scrolling time. Exercise becomes streaming time. Even bedtime often becomes screen time. As a result, opportunities for default mode network activity decrease. The consequences can be subtle. People may become less connected to their values. They may struggle to understand their emotions. They may feel directionless despite remaining constantly occupied. The brain receives endless information, but has little opportunity to organize it. Imagine a library that continuously receives new books, but never allows librarians to sort them. Eventually, chaos emerges. Silence functions like those librarians. It creates space for organization. It allows experiences to be categorized and integrated. It helps transform information into wisdom. This is why many breakthroughs occur during seemingly unproductive moments. People suddenly discover solutions while showering, walking, or sitting quietly. The conscious mind relaxes. The default mode network takes over. Connections form beneath awareness. Eventually, insights rise to the surface. The next time silence feels uncomfortable, remember this. Your brain may not be doing nothing. It may be doing some of its most important work. There is a profound difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Yet modern society often confuses the two. Being alone simply means experiencing solitude. Loneliness involves feeling disconnected from meaningful relationships. A person can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. Likewise, someone can sit quietly in complete solitude and feel deeply content. Unfortunately, many individuals have become uncomfortable with solitude itself. Silence forces us into direct contact with ourselves. Without external distractions, there is nowhere to hide. No notifications to check. No conversations to enter. No entertainment to consume. Only our thoughts, emotions, memories, and self-perceptions. For some people, this experience feels threatening. Why? Because many individuals spend years constructing identities based on external validation, social approval, career achievements, digital engagement, public recognition. These factors can become so dominant that people rarely examine their inner lives. When silence removes external feedback, uncertainty emerges. Who am I when nobody is watching? What do I truly believe? What do I value? Am I living authentically? These questions are powerful. They are also uncomfortable. As a result, many people instinctively avoid them. The digital world provides endless opportunities for avoidance. Every moment of solitude can be interrupted. Every quiet thought can be replaced. Every uncomfortable feeling can be distracted. Yet avoidance carries a hidden cost. The less familiar we become with ourselves, the more fragile our sense of identity becomes. External circumstances begin determining emotional stability. Praise creates confidence. Criticism destroys it. Success creates happiness. Failure creates despair. The inner foundation remains weak because it has never been explored deeply. Solitude strengthens that foundation. When people spend time alone intentionally, they gradually become familiar with their inner landscape. They learn how their minds operate. They identify recurring fears. They discover genuine interests. They recognize personal strengths and weaknesses. Most importantly, they develop self-trust. Self-trust cannot be downloaded. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be provided by an algorithm. It emerges through direct experience with oneself. This process takes time. It requires patience. It requires stillness. And yes, it often requires discomfort. But the reward is profound. People who become comfortable with solitude are less dependent on constant validation. They can enjoy connection without requiring it every moment. They can appreciate silence rather than fear it. They can remain grounded even when external circumstances become chaotic. In a world obsessed with constant engagement, the ability to sit peacefully with oneself may be one of the rarest psychological strengths of all. The human nervous system was not designed for endless stimulation, yet in 2026, stimulation follows us almost everywhere. Our devices wake us in the morning. Information accompanies us throughout the day. Entertainment follows us into the evening. Even sleep is often interrupted by digital connectivity. At first glance, this may seem harmless. After all, technology provides convenience, efficiency, and access to knowledge. The problem arises when stimulation becomes continuous. Human beings require periods of recovery. Muscles need rest after exertion. Likewise, the mind needs rest after processing information. Without recovery, emotional systems become strained. Stress hormones remain elevated. Attention becomes fragmented. Patience decreases. Irritability increases. Many people assume they are relaxing when consuming endless digital content. Psychologically, however, passive consumption does not always produce genuine rest. The brain may continue processing information, making decisions, comparing experiences, and responding emotionally. True recovery often requires something different. It requires reduction of inputs, reduction of demands, reduction of stimulation. Silence provides exactly that. It lowers cognitive load. It reduces competition for attention. It allows emotional systems to stabilize. Unfortunately, people frequently mistake the initial discomfort of silence for evidence that it is harmful. In reality, the discomfort often reflects withdrawal from overstimulation. Consider someone leaving a brightly lit room. Initially, darkness feels uncomfortable. Over time, however, vision adjusts. The same principle applies psychologically. A mind accustomed to constant input may struggle when stimulation disappears. Eventually, adaptation occurs. Calm returns. Clarity emerges. This adjustment process reveals something important. Many emotional difficulties are amplified by chronic overstimulation. Anxiety becomes louder. Stress accumulates. Mental fatigue increases. Silence interrupts the cycle. It creates opportunities for emotional regulation. Research increasingly suggests that practices involving stillness, such as mindfulness, contemplation, and quiet reflection, can improve emotional well-being. These practices do not eliminate life's challenges. They change our relationship with them. Instead of reacting automatically, people gain space to respond thoughtfully. Instead of becoming overwhelmed, they become observant. Instead of escaping emotions, they learn from them. In this way, silence becomes more than an absence of noise. It becomes a tool for emotional health. And in a world overflowing with stimulation, that tool may be more valuable than ever. Many people assume stillness is natural. In reality, stillness is a skill. Like any skill, it can weaken through neglect and strengthen through practice. This realization is important because it changes how we interpret discomfort. If silence feels difficult, that does not mean you are incapable of stillness. It simply means the skill requires training. Imagine someone attempting to run a marathon after years without exercise. The initial experience would be challenging. No one would interpret that difficulty as proof that exercise is harmful. The same logic applies to silence. Modern brains have been conditioned for stimulation. Stillness may initially feel unfamiliar. The solution is gradual practice. Small moments matter. A few quiet minutes in the morning. A short walk without headphones. A meal without digital distractions. A brief period of reflection before sleep. These experiences may seem insignificant, yet they retrain attention. They teach the brain that silence is safe. Over time, tolerance increases. Then appreciation begins to emerge. People often discover unexpected benefits. Thoughts become clearer. Creativity increases. Stress decreases. Emotional awareness improves. Decision-making becomes more intentional. The goal is not to eliminate technology, Technology is an extraordinary tool. The goal is to prevent technology from eliminating stillness. Balance matters. External information is valuable. Internal information is valuable too. A healthy mind needs both. One practical approach involves creating designated zones of silence. Perhaps the first 10 minutes after waking. Perhaps a daily walk. Perhaps a weekly period of uninterrupted reflection. The specific method matters less than consistency. Regular stillness gradually rebuilds psychological endurance. And endurance is increasingly important. The modern world will likely become even more stimulating in the years ahead. Artificial intelligence, immersive media, personalized algorithms, and constant connectivity will continue expanding. External noise is unlikely to decrease. Therefore, cultivating internal quiet becomes a deliberate choice, a protective choice, a restorative choice. The individuals who thrive may not be those who consume the most information. They may be those who know when to stop consuming, those who understand when to disconnect, those who recognize that silence is not empty. It is a space where the mind can finally breathe. We began with a simple question. Why do modern brains panic in silence? The answer is surprisingly complex. Part of it involves evolution. Part of it involves dopamine. Part of it involves anxiety, identity, and emotional avoidance. Part of it involves a culture built around constant stimulation. Yet beneath all these explanations lies a deeper truth. Silence forces us to encounter ourselves, and that encounter can be both frightening and transformative. The modern world teaches us to look outward. More information, more entertainment, more engagement, more activity. But psychological growth often requires the opposite direction. It requires looking inward. This inward journey begins with stillness, not because silence magically solves problems, but because silence reveals them. It shows us what has been ignored. It highlights what needs attention. It exposes habits, fears, hopes, and desires that noise keeps hidden. For this reason, silence has always occupied a special place in human experience. Mystics sought it. Philosophers valued it. Artists depended on it. Scientists benefited from it. Across cultures and centuries, people recognized that wisdom often emerges from quiet reflection. Today, that wisdom feels more relevant than ever. We live in an age of unprecedented noise. Information arrives faster than humans can process it. Distraction has become a business model. Attention has become a commodity. Stillness has become rare, and rare things often become valuable. The ability to sit quietly with your thoughts may soon become a competitive advantage, not merely professionally, but emotionally and psychologically. It fosters clarity. It strengthens resilience. It deepens self-awareness. It supports creativity. Most importantly, it restores a relationship many people have lost, the relationship with themselves. The future will undoubtedly bring more technology, more connectivity, more stimulation. Those developments are not inherently negative, but they make one's skill increasingly essential. The ability to step away, to pause, to listen, to remain still. Because silence is not the absence of life. It is the space where life can finally be understood. So the next time you feel the urge to fill every quiet moment, consider resisting for just a few minutes. Put the phone down. Turn the noise off. Sit with your thoughts. Notice what appears. You may discover that the thing you feared was never silence itself. You may discover that silence was trying to teach you something all along. And in a world that never stops talking, that lesson might be exactly what your mind has been waiting to hear. If this video made you think differently about silence, let us know in the comments. When was the last time you spent 10 minutes completely alone with your thoughts? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the human mind, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the Pulsora Psyche. We explore the hidden psychology behind human behavior, modern society, and the mysteries of the mind. Until next time, stay curious and don't be afraid of the silence.